Hello friends, this is Navdeep Singh from Hitbullseye.com. Today we'll be discussing about business GK and in that certain miscellaneous topics. So the topics for today's discussion would be firstly the strategy about how to prepare certain questions or questions related to business GK. We'll also be discussing certain famous personalities and the associations or companies associated with them. We'll also look into famous mergers or acquisitions of companies, certain taglines of major companies, and also lastly major companies which are enlisted under the Fortune or the Forbes lists of companies. So starting firstly with the strategy about how to prepare business GK questions. We should be well aware that this section relates to current affairs. So we have to be very thorough with our current affairs, and the source of such questions should be the newspapers and any other news related to such businesses. So what we need to do is to keep our eyes and ears open to any such news. We also should be aware about major business personalities and the domains in which they are working. Knowledge about company logos and punchlines is also important. So for this, company logos and punchlines, the best source is the commercials or advertisement we watch visually over the TV. So these are the important strategy points we should be keeping in mind about preparing questions related to business GK. As we were discussing about famous business personalities, we look into certain important personalities that have been instrumental in establishing these important companies. For Alphabet.Inc., which is the parent company of Google, it is being managed nowadays by Larry Page and Sergey Brin. For Google, we have an Indian origin person called Sundar Pichai. For Indian origin persons, we have to be very specific, and we have to be well aware of the personality and the association associated with this person. Sundar Pichai is one such case. Facebook, as we all know, Mark Zuckerberg. For Amazon, we have Jeff Bezos. Dell has Michael Dell. Microsoft, again important because an Indian origin person is associated, namely Satya Nadella. For Adobe, again important because of the same reason, being headed by Shantanu Narayan. Apple has Tim Cook. PepsiCo, Indra Nooyi, again an Indian origin person. Yahoo, Marissa Mayer. For American Express, we have a very famous business personality in the America by the name of Kenneth Chenault. Cognizant has Francisco D'Souza. Motorola Mobility associated again with an Indian, Sanjay K. Jha. Twitter has Jack Dorsey, who had visited India in the recent past also. Oracle has Larry Ellison. Of these, again talking about Indian personalities, Nokia has Rajesh Suri, and we also personalities such as Pierre Nanterme associated with Accenture. For others, we also have Richard Branson associated with Virgin Group, a very famous personality, rather very visual personality. Randall Stephenson for AT&T. SanDisk, again having an Indian by the name of Sanjay Mehrotra. We all are very aware of Lakshmi Mittal associated with Asla Mittal, a steel giant. Ajit Jain for Berkshire Hathaway Insurance. Ajay Banga associated with MasterCard. Rakesh Kapoor with Reckitt Benckiser, and Nikesh Arora with SoftBank. At the last, here we have all the Indian personalities along with Rajesh Suri, as we have already discussed. So my suggestion would be that apart from the other famous personalities, we should be very aware and very particular about Indian personalities. Coming to major mergers and acquisitions. Here we'll be discussing the company which has been purchased, the purchaser company, and in certain cases the value if it was a very significant amount. We start with Verizon Wireless being purchased by Verizon Communications. This was a $130 billion deal. Then we have DuPont being purchased by Dow Chemicals. The deal or the amount of deal was similar in the ranges of $130 billion. Then we have Kraft Foods being acquired by Heinz. This was again a very popular deal which was of the ranges of $100 billion. Then we have EMC Corporation acquired by Dell. This was again a very famous acquisition in the electronics sphere. This was a $67 billion deal. Then we have Synthes being acquired by Johnson & Johnson. Metro PCS by Deutsche Telekom. This was again a $30 billion deal. Sprint Corporation being acquired by SoftBank. And Facebook, we all know, acquired WhatsApp. This was a $19 billion deal. We also have Berkshire Hathaway acquiring Heinz and Precision Castparts. Heinz, as we discussed in our previous slide, had acquired a company by the name of Kraft Foods. Then we have Altera by Intel. Then we have certain Indian acquisitions like that of Myntra by Flipkart. This was a 2,000 crore deal. We also have in the pharma sector that Sun Pharmaceutical was acquired by Ranbaxy. This was a $4 billion deal, one of the biggest deals that we have had in our country. We also have Network 18 Media Networks being acquired by RIL or the Reliance Industries. This was done by 4,000 crores. Sigma being acquired by Merck, and lastly Thomas Cook India being acquired by Sterling India Resorts. This was an 870 crore rupees deal. These are very major acquisitions that have happened in the recent past, and if possible we should also be able to retain the amounts or figures, because these are very significant amounts which do not actually happen in everyday life. After this, it is also important to be aware of major companies that have been enlisted under the Fortune and the Forbes lists of companies. Fortune and Forbes list of companies are those companies which have been accessed as very strategic and significant companies, and these are based upon the asset value of the company, the net worth of the company, the profitability of the company, the shareholders' capacity in the company, and other certain business factors. So when we discuss Fortune companies, Fortune in its 2015 listing had enlisted Walmart as the best company. After that, in a particular sequence, we have Sinopec, a Chinese company. We have the Royal Dutch Shell, a company associated with the petroleum sector. The China National Petroleum Corporation, again a Chinese company associated with petroleum sector, and ExxonMobil, again associated with petroleum sector. So we can generalize that petroleum companies have a very big asset value attached to them. Continuing the trend, we have British Petroleum associated with again the petroleum companies, which is more popularly known as BP. We have the State Grid Corporation of China. After that, we have two automobile companies by Volkswagen and Toyota, and lastly at 10th spot is Glencore. Obviously, Fortune lists about 500 companies based upon certain factors that we have discussed earlier, but for our purpose of convenience of the video, we are discussing only about 10 of them. After the Fortune companies, we also should be aware of the Forbes list, because this is again a very popular trend. Again, the same thing, that Forbes publishes a list of a number of companies, but for our purpose of convenience, we'll be looking into the top 10 companies. So, topping this chart are the Chinese companies, starting with the ICBC, the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, the Construction Bank of China, Agriculture Bank of China, and the Bank of China. So first four spots are being taken up by Chinese companies themselves. The fifth spot is taken by Berkshire Hathaway, JP Morgan Chase on the sixth. Then comes two petroleum companies by the name of ExxonMobil and PetroChina. Then we have General Electrics and Wells Fargo placed upon 10th spot. So these were the four lists of companies. Coming to our next topic of discussion, that is the taglines of major companies. So while discussing taglines, we'll be looking into certain sector specific companies, because obviously it will not be possible for us to look into X amount of companies. So we'll be concentrating upon major companies associated with a particular sector. So firstly, starting with the electronic sector. For Nikon, we have at the heart of the image. Xerox company uses the document company as its tagline. Sony, obviously make believe. Hitachi, inspire the next. LG, life's good. For Canon, we have delighting you always. Toshiba uses the tagline of leading innovation. Nokia uses the tagline of connecting people, obviously very popular. For Voltas, we have the global cooling expert, and Videocon, we have the Indian multinational, obviously Voltas and Videocon being Indian companies. Next, we have the IT companies. So starting with IT, we have the IT giant by the name of Microsoft, which uses your potential, our passion as its tagline. For Infosys, we have powered by intellect, driven by values as the tagline. IBM uses on-demand business. For Lenovo, it is first you pay for it and then it pays you back with interest. Lenovo obviously has various other taglines as well. Wipro uses applying thought. For HP, we have invent, and Dell Computing, consider the possibilities. Our next sector is the airlines sector. So for Singapore Airlines, we have a great way to fly. For Jet Airways, the joy of flying. SpiceJet uses flying for everyone. Air India, fly well as the tagline. Cathay Pacific, a heart of Asia. Lufthansa, there is no better way to fly. British Airways, the world is waiting. Fly the good times is being used by Kingfisher, which is now obviously defunct. Emirates use Fly Emirates, and Etihad, the tagline for that is Fly Abu Dhabi to the world. So these are the major airline sectors, and for our purpose, it will be better if we can remember all the taglines that are important, but we have to be very, very specific about Indian Airlines. In the automobile sector, we have firstly Hyundai, which uses new thinking, new possibilities. Then we have Fiat, driven by passion. Toyota, using moving forward as its tagline. BMW, the ultimate driving machine. For certain products of companies such as Alto by Maruti Suzuki, let's go Maruti Suzuki itself using count on us as its tagline. Mahindra using live young, live free, but for Scorpio, a product of Mahindra and Mahindra, they use nothing else will do. So these are also important things that we have to keep in mind. Coming to the companies or the field of finance and banking. For the State Bank of India, we have a couple of taglines. The first being with you all the way, second being pure banking, nothing else. For ICICI Prudential Life Insurance, we cover you at every step of life. Union Bank of India, good people to bank with. Aviva Life Insurance, cull per control, since this is very relevant to the insurance sector. Tata AIG using new look at life. Punjab National Bank or PNB using the name you can bank upon. HSBC, world's local bank. Bombay Stock Exchange, now this is important because this is one of the most important financial institutions in the country. This uses the tagline, the edge is efficiency. Bank of Baroda being called as India's international bank, and Indian Overseas Bank being called as good people to grow with. So this is about the taglines of various companies in particular sectors. So friends, in our today's lecture, we have discussed about firstly the strategy to prepare certain questions related to business GK. We've also discussed various business personalities being associated with a particular company. After that, we've discussed about certain mergers and acquisitions of companies purchased by which company. and lastly the taglines in major sectors. So this is all about business GK that I wanted to discuss. Thank you, friends.